Hey, I'm Laura, and this is my Literary Elements lesson plan for first grade. My objective is ask and answer questions about key details in a text. For review, the learner will review different types of text and describe them. So we will just go over like narratives that tell stories and they have elements, settings, character, plot. Then we would go over nonfiction. Those are books that have information and facts. They don't tell a story, but they give us information about things like animals, planets, biographies, folklore, fantasy, for instance, Wizard of Oz. And I would just go over what different types of book there are and ask the students which type of book is their favorite and why. So the overview is the purpose and importance to teach students about key details through story elements by asking where, why, who, what, and how. Last week we learned about different types of text and actively engaged in reading activities. Today we will ask and answer questions about details in a text. Next week we will retell stories by putting them in sequence. The objective is the learner will be able to ask and answer questions about key details in a text with 90% accuracy. And this is remembering on Bloom's taxonomy. So for motivation, I'm going to read Peace at Last by Jill Murphy. It's a book about a bear family. And I'm going to read it to them and display pictures and point out details in the pictures that's going along with the story. And this will also be what we're going to do our first procedure activity, which will be story grammar. So I'm just going to read this to y'all like I would read it to the class. So this book is Peace at Last by Jill Murphy. Here's the inside. It's Papa Bear with a pillow. I'm sorry I'm sniffing. I've been sick for a week almost. Peace at Last by Jill Murphy. The hour was late. It's outside their house. Mr. Bear was tired. Mrs. Bear was tired. And Baby Bear was tired, so they all went to sleep. This is everyone going upstairs to go to bed. Mrs. Bear fell asleep. Mr. Bear didn't. We can see Mrs. Bear sound asleep right here. And Mr. Bear is wide awake with his eyes open. Mrs. Bear began to snore. Snore, went Mrs. Bear. Snore, snore, snore. And when I would read this with my class, I would actually snore to them. Oh no, said Mr. Bear. I can't stand this. So he got up and went to sleep in Baby Bear's room. And in the text, this is capitalized because he's talking about his wife snoring. He can't stand this. So he's getting up, heading out. Baby Bear was not asleep either. He was lying in bed, pretending to be an airplane. Meow, went Baby Bear. Meow, meow. Oh no, said Mr. Bear. I can't stand this. So for this, he's talking about Baby Bear playing airplanes with his hand and making noise. So he got up and went to sleep in the living room. Tick-tock went the living room clock. Tick-tock, tick-tock, cuckoo, cuckoo. Oh no, said Mr. Bear. I can't stand this. So again, it's all capital letters. This. He's talking about the clock that's being too loud and he can't sleep. So he went off to sleep in the kitchen. Drip, drip went the leaky kitchen faucet. Went the refrigerator. Oh no, said Mr. Bear. I can't stand this. So he got up and went to sleep in the garden. He just can't find any peace. Well, you would not believe what noises there are in the garden at night. Too-wee, too-hoo, went the owl. Snuffle, snuffle, went the hedgehog. Meow, sang the cats on the wall. Oh no, said Mr. Bear. I can't stand this. So he went off to sleep in the car. And he said this, and it's all capital letters. And he's got his head trying to sleep in the yard where there's too much noise. It was cold in the car and uncomfortable. But Mr. Bear was so tired that he didn't notice. He was just falling asleep when all the birds started to sing and the sun peeped in at the window. Tweet, tweet, went the birds. Shine, shine, went the sun. Oh no, said Mr. Bear. I can't stand this. So he got up and went back into the house. And the sun's coming up so the students can see that he's been doing this all night. In the house, Baby Bear was fast asleep, and Mrs. Bear had turned over and wasn't snoring anymore. Mr. Bear got into the bed and closed his eyes. Peace at last. And he closed his eyes. Brrr, went the alarm clock. Brrr. Mrs. Bear sat up and rubbed her eyes. Good morning, dear, she said. Did you sleep well? Not very well, dear, yawned Mr. Bear. Never mind, said Mrs. Bear. I'll bring you the mail and a nice cup of tea. See, he just fell asleep, and now it's time to get up. And she did. And we can see in the picture that she's got tea, Baby Bear's got mail, and he didn't get any sleep. So that would be my motivation to read this book to them. And then for our first procedure, we would do story grammar. The story grammar worksheet looks like this. It asks for the setting, characters, problem, important events, and solution. So for this activity, I'm just going to turn it sideways. But of course, in class, I would have it on the smartboard, and it would be facing the students. But I have to be able to see to write. But I would just have my book open, and we would go back over it and take our time. But real quick, it says the setting. It asks for the setting. So we would just go over it as a class, and I would ask. So the setting for the story is the bear's house and yard. Characters are Mama Bear, Papa Bear, and Baby Bear. The problem is Papa Bear cannot fall asleep. And the important events is, to me, I thought the important events were he tried to sleep in Baby Bear's room, the living room, the kitchen, outside, the car, and he was always unsuccessful. And the solution, it's funny that it asks, I put there's no solution because he never gets any sleep. It's morning time. So I did that very quickly, but with the students, we could take our time and go over it. And I really liked that this book, there was no solution, because when I first saw that, I said, oh, but then I said, well, sometimes there won't be a solution. So that was good. Okay, and then for my next procedure, we would go on, and I would actually read a second story, because my second procedure is Story Question Cube, and I picked out a different book for that, and it is a really fun book. It's kind of a take on Goldilocks and the Three Bears, but it's called Goldie and the Three Hares, and I'm just going to read it because this lesson I would read two books. This is Goldie and the Three Hares, and this is like so fun. I love this book. Okay. Papa Hare, Mama Hare, and Little Baby Hare, also known as Bunny, were enjoying a quiet, peaceful, lovely day at home down the rabbit hole. I'm going to really get into this because I like it. Thump, bump, kaboom, kaboom, kaboom. That was not quiet or peaceful. Get me out of here. And that didn't sound lovely. You can see that's Goldie. Look how it looks like Honey Boo Boo. What was that? Said Papa and Mama. Quick to the door ran Bunny. A foot, he cried, peeking through the tiny window. A big little foot that belongs to a big little girl who fell down our rabbit hole and landed splat on our door stoop. I said, get me out of here. She's obnoxious already. The hares hopped right over to help. What happened? Asked Papa Hare. How did you get here? Asked Mama Hare. Who are you? Asked Bunny. The bunnies are all confused. Questions, questions. Can't you see this head of hair? I'm Goldilocks. I was chased through the woods by 3 bears. I fell down your rabbit hole, and let me tell you, that first step is a Lulu. And now my little foot is big and swollen, and I can't get out. She's so dramatic. Papa, Mama, and Little Baby Hare watched the big little foot grow bigger by the minute. There was just no way now to get you know who up and out of the rabbit hole with that fat foot swelling. Well, they all couldn't just stay there watching the foot, so the three hares helped the big little girl into their house. Her foot's huge. Watch that, Tootsie. Don't mess the hair. The three hares huffed and puffed and carried her to Papa Hare's chair. Wait, stop. This chair looks too hard. Try to see if you can see. They huffed and puffed and carried her to Mama's Hare's chair. Wait, stop. This chair looks too soft. They huffed and puffed and stared at Baby Hare's chair. Don't even go there. I'll take the couch. Which she did, with both feet up on the cushions. Now, this is just right. Not really, because Mama didn't allow shoes on the sofa. But there she sat, all settled in, big shoe and all. Look, she's taking up the whole couch, being grumpy and obnoxious. So with the big little girl all comfy cozy on the sofa, Bunny sat down to read a book, Mama picked up her knitting, and Papa went to see about that Lulu of a first step. Hey, I need a pillow here. Now, quick like a bunny. And remember, not too hard, not too soft, just right. And get one for my foot, too. And with the big little girl even more settled in, with 3 pillows and her shoe up on the sofa, Bunny sat down to read his book. Mama went back to her knitting, and Papa went to fix that Lulu of a first step. Haven't we forgotten something here? Like a blanket? I need a blanket. She's so mean. Too scratchy, too itchy, too big, too little, too hot, way too skimpy. Actually, I prefer cashmere. And somebody, turn up the heat, will you? She's wearing out her welcome. Okay, where's the clicker? Who's got the remote? What, no cable? You, baby bunny ears, go stand by the TV so I can get a better picture. Perfect, don't move a muscle. Oh dear, said Mama. I don't believe Bunny can stay like that for very long. Look how she's got him standing. She's so mean. Luckily for the hares, the big little girl felt so comfy cozy and the TV program was so long and boring she fell sound asleep. Mama sighed. How are we ever going to get her to leave? Papa came up with a marvelous plan. When you know who wakes up, she's going to be hungry. We're rabbits. All we have to eat are vegetables. Give her some carrots, spinach, and a little bit of cabbage, and she'll be running for the door, Bigfoot and all, before we know it. So while she's sleeping, the bunnies are trying to come up with a plan to get her out. Sure enough, when the big little girl woke up, her tummy was growling. I'm starving here. Bring on the snacks. Mama Hare came from the kitchen carrying a cup of carrot juice, 2 spinach pies, and 5 steamed Brussels sprouts. The 3 hares tried their very best not to grin too big, broad, toothy grins. Their plan was working perfectly. Then the big little girl picked up a sprout. I love veggies. Toss me some arugula. The big little girl not only had all their pillows, best blanket, and her shoe up on the sofa, but now she was eating them out of house and home and every vegetable, including the carrot tops. You can see her stuffing her face in this picture. Oh my gosh. Papa sighed. Now what? Mama had a dandy idea. We'll invite the neighbors for a visit. With the hare house being so small, the neighbors being so many, and you know who being so large, certainly the big little girl would not want to stay where it was so cramped and crowded. Company? I love parties. Which one of you bunnies brought the artichoke dip? This called for desperate measures. It was time to bring in Sherman. And we're going to see that Sherman is a skunk. They're going to try to stink her out. No one cleared a room quite like he did. And when Sherman showed, sure enough, everyone made a swift beeline for the door. Except for, well, you know who. This stinks, said little baby hare. I don't understand it, said Mama Hare, holding her nose. How can she still be here? Wondered Papa, with his eyes smarting. Achoo, achoo! I can't breathe. My nose is all stuffy and I can't smell a ting. I think I caught a cold from this drafty rabbit hole. I gotta get to bed and stay there till I get all better. Baby Hare saw the big little girl eyeing his just right little bed. And I read it like that because that's the way it's written. Kind of like a little kid talks. I've had it, said Bunny, speed dialing. I'm calling the bears. The bears! You can see she freaks out. Gotta go. Goodbye. So long. See you. Arrivederci, rabbits. The big little girl with the big swollen foot scooted out of the hare house without even an achoo and ran up the rabbit hole, past that Lulu of a first step. And there, the 3 hares went back to enjoying a quiet, peaceful, lovely day back at home in their rabbit hole. Oh no. It continues. Thump, bump, kaboom, kaboom, kaboom. Bunny peeked through the tiny window. Oh no, it's another big little foot that belongs to another big little girl who found down our rabbit hole and landed splat on our door stoop. And this is a different girl. She says, "Pardon me, I say, has anyone seen a white rabbit lately?" And here's Papa saying, "I've got to fix that Lulu of a first step." I think that's neat that it ends up with Alice from Alice in Wonderland falling down the step next. I think that's cool. Anyways, I'm sorry, that was long. So for this activity, it's similar. It's this sheet. It's called Story Question Cube. It's got similar questions, but they're kind of different. And we've got a story cube that I've colored. And so what I would do is the students would, we would just work together. I would call them down to the center of the floor. While I read that story, they'd be at the center. And we would have read it and gone over the pictures, and then they would have gone back to their seats. Now, at their seats, we would, sorry, the sheet's got messed up. Okay. At their seats, I would roll the cube on the smartboard. And actually, I would just walk around and pass it out and let each kid take a turn, or whoever I selected, to roll the dice. And then they would answer the questions about the cube, and we would all answer them together on our sheets. So, this is how this goes. Again, like the other one, roll a cube. This one says, why did the problem happen? So the problem happened because, I'm not going to write this one, because Goldie fell down the rabbit hole. I already have my questions answered. If I rolled it again, it says, how was the problem solved? It was solved because the bears were called over, and she did not want to see them. So it was just, this is a fun, like, where does the story take place? It takes place at the Three Hares house. What happens at the beginning? This is an important one because this question says, what happens in the story, beginning, middle, and end? This is asking about their plot. So the beginning, Goldie fell down the rabbit hole. We would write that. Middle, Goldie took over the couch, the TV, their food. And at the end, the Hare family called the bears over, and Goldie left in a hurry. And it asks the characters, and when does it take place, which is in one day. And where does it take place? We've gone over that. But that was just a really cool video. Story, sorry. For my closure, I would have the students discuss what story element detail both story has in common. Some of the students would get it right away, but some wouldn't. I don't know. Somebody like me, it might would go right over my head. But of course, the element that they have in common is character, because both stories has bears as character. In Peace at Last, the bear family are the main character, whereas in Goldie and the Three Hares, the bears are unseen, but they are a character because they're who Goldie ran from and who they used to get her out of her house. Or, some students might say both stories have a family with a mom and a dad and a baby hare and baby bear. For homework, the learner would complete the story elements worksheet. They would create their own mini story by listing or drawing characters, a setting, a problem, and a solution. Let me show you this worksheet I have. It's right here. It just looks like this. And it just says story elements. This is basically where they would just maybe do a recipe for a story. And they could draw or they could write. It asks for characters, setting, problem, and a solution, just to get them to use their imagination. Special needs. Students with a reading disability, they would work one-on-one with a paraprofessional by reading short stories, just a mini story, to evaluate their reading fluency and identifying key details, how well they could do that. English learners, they'd work one-on-one with a teacher. They would read short stories as well, aloud to the teacher, so the teacher could reevaluate their phonics skills and their phonics understanding and the progress of their reading fluency and their key detail understanding. Remediation, the paraprofessional would work with a small group by reviewing Peace at Last, the first story about the bear family. They would review the story and ask the students about key details and about story elements. My motivation is a Fancy Nancy worksheet that students who have obviously grasped this lesson very easily could do. I'll show it to you. It's this right here. This worksheet is just a story. It's a Fancy Nancy story, and it asks them, so the students who are doing well could read the story, and then they could answer these, it's a comprehension worksheet. They could answer these questions independently. Who is the story mostly about? When does the story happen? Where does the story start? Anyways, this could show us how advanced they really were. That's my lesson. Sorry it's a little extra long, but I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks.